Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Global Healing Power of Music Summit Speakers Mastermind. We're here to share a little bit of our wisdom and our personal stories and just to kind of connect with each other from all over the world. So I'm going to ask each of you to just say your name, where you're from, what country you're from, a little bit about what you do, and maybe just a quick, short little sentence about what was your biggest takeaway about being part of the Global Healing Power of Music Summit. So I'm going to start off with Yin Yin, and I'll just kind of go through the room. So can you introduce yourself?
Yes. Good morning. I'm very delightful to be here. And my name is Yin Huang, and I was born in Taiwan and trained in Taipei. The most important part in my life for teaching music is like I can empower students and my colleague through the music, like peace through the music and love. And I think to me, it's very important. You cannot become a good musician unless a good human being. And that's my ultimate goal, to teach a student has healthy mind, healthy body.
Wonderful. Thank you. Miss Sarah?
Yes, I'm Sarah Lindgra, and I am living now in Washington State after 25 years in Copenhagen and Saudi Arabia. And I've been an online teacher for over 10 years now, I think. Oh my gosh, when you start looking at the time. And so I think the thing that I got the most out of this whole thing is how many people have so many shared experiences, like there isn't a family that doesn't have a member with dementia or Alzheimer's, or there isn't a family who hasn't been touched by suicide, or there hasn't been a family who has not experienced like major health issues. And I think we often forget that those experiences are shared, even though we may not know about them. And so the idea that music is something that can bring people together and make them feel better, even when these experiences are not there, is I thought that was really interesting. And it makes you more empathetic and compassionate to your students who you don't know what's going on with them, but maybe they're having, you don't know everything that's going on in their lives, but you still have an ability to make them feel better, even if you just by bringing music into their lives.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Sarah. Rami?
I'm here.
Can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, okay. I was waiting for a question. Sorry. I'm Rami Barnev. I'm from Israel and the United States. I'm a concert pianist and a teacher and author, and I forget what else because I'm old. And my main thing is sharing, and this is what drives me. I love to share the music I play with my audience. I love to share my knowledge with my students, and that's about sums it up.
Yes, very good. Thank you. Derek?
Hi, everybody. I'm Derek Auger. I'm living in Thunder Bay, Ontario, Canada, and I work as the Executive Director for Conservatory Canada. We do assessments for students across Canada and in China. And I also work as a functional health coach, a certified functional health coach. And the big takeaway for me is just wonderful to see studio teachers all over the world. And I know certainly I've worked with a lot in Canada where we've all had to simplify our means. We've all been able to still connect with students despite everything that they're recalibrating to. And it's been a great part that suddenly we've kind of floated to the top as a studio teacher, profession in terms of being the most important part of students' lives, I think, during this time.
Yeah.
And using that music to be that one steady influence in the family's lives. And I've also witnessed many times too, just the power of music, both for myself and others in healing from the burden of chronic disease that's sweeping across the globe. And that's just very important to me to see how that works and to be a part of it and to be on the front lines of it. And thanks, Glory, for organizing this mastermind and this summit.
Yeah, thank you, Derek. Noreen?
Hi, I'm Noreen Wengen, and I live in Torrance, California, on the West Coast, near the ocean. And I have been very fortunate. I've been teaching privately as an independent music teacher for almost 30 years, and I've been teaching online for 8 years. And I've been very fortunate in that I've had these amazing mentors throughout my whole career. But now, especially with the power of healing, it has had me really reflect on what music has done for us, not just music for pleasure, but music for healing. And it's been wonderful to really think about how we've given to other teachers and how teachers have given back to us, but more importantly, how we get back from our students the things that we put out in the world today. So Glory, thank you for just, especially during this time of COVID, people need music, and I think we need to stop really and think about this wonderful power that we have, not only to teach, but to heal.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Noreen.
Thank you.
Ruth, please.
Thanks, Glory, for all of this. You know, we've become a global community, and I see that as part of the healing. As musicians and as teachers, we have this opportunity to really bring people together in a massive way. I was smiling because Noreen lives right down the street from me because I live in Gardena. and we have to get online and be with someone who is in Canada to bring us together. My biggest thing is that my own story, as well as the people that I've worked with over many, many years, I help people develop their dreams, and to be able to dream and to tell your story heals. And so whether it's from a music therapy point of view, or it's a performance point of view, it's all about telling our stories and being witnessed by someone. And so that's what I consider music to do. It helps us to witness each other.
Yeah, it really has changed a lot. And even myself, I think I've been more aware, and we're going to talk about that in the second round, but it's really created awareness. And that's really what this conversation and what the summit is all about, is just to bring awareness. Dorothy, can you share just introduce yourself?
Hello, everyone. My name is Dorothy Chia, and I am from Singapore. So I teach teachers as well as young children. And I am very glad to be part of this summit. And I agree with all the speakers here, and especially this time where we are all working from home. Kids sometimes are extra stressed because they need an outlet. And I'm so glad that being in the teaching line, we are able to help them through cope with life's anxiety through their music and their piano learning.
Yes,
so I'm really happy to be here today.
Oh, thank you, Dorothy. I'm happy that you're here as well. Miss Sheila, can you just introduce yourself and just a little bit about how the Global Healing Power Music Summit has just made you think about a few things that way?
Hi, I'm Sheila McKibben-Uran. I'm in Brockville, Ontario, Canada, and I run a private studio here, as well as I work with Glory through Ultimate Music Theory. I think the one thing that I have really, really noticed this week is that when I see my students get that glazed look in their faces because we're having to do this online, instead of getting frustrated myself, I'm acknowledging, wow, how are you feeling? Yeah. And some of the words that these kids are saying, they're saying, I'm so tired, I'm so sad. And being able to say, okay, well then let's use that feeling. I know, because I'm feeling, I just wish I could reach through the piano or reach through the camera and point to your notes for you and help you focus. But by acknowledging how they are feeling and putting it into words, because I hadn't really thought about that, and putting it into words from the summit, from our last time that we were meeting, and saying, you know, what is it that you are doing? What are you here for? Being able to put those things into words and acknowledge that they have feelings and then working those feelings out through music and giving them not only words that are in the language that we speak, but also the words of sounds from their hearts on the keyboard. It's just been the most amazing week for me.
Yeah. Thank you, Sheila. I want to introduce, and Mary Kay, I see you. Are you there? Okay. I'll go to Mary Kay first, and then I'm going to go to Jeff and Connor. Mary Kay, hello.
Hi. I'm from Albany, Georgia in the USA, southeast corner. And I teach piano and play for church. I've been doing that for most of my life. Started at the age of 13. And as far as teaching online, definitely a different way to teach, being able to keep the students engaged and just acknowledging, hey, we're having a moment here. Can we, pull back in and focus and, checking in with them with their feelings. And I get the same expressions that you guys are saying, we're sad, we're upset because, we can't get together with our friends. Mostly I find that to be true for my teenagers. And so I did have a group class last fall. It went pretty well online, and the element, being physically in the room together is definitely missing, but I do feel like it was a way to pull them together and help them feel like they were part of a community in music. And I think that helped a lot in their motivation. I've noticed that they really are still continuing to progress in spite of the fact that we can't meet in person.
Yeah. Absolutely. Thank you. I want to, I'm going to get Sibo to introduce himself, but the reason, we're all musicians, but we're all in the music industry. And so I'm going to let him introduce himself because we may be doing a little bit of movement here.
Hey, everybody. My name is Sibo. Like Prince, just one name. I am currently in New York by way of New Jersey, by way of Japan. I have a dance studio in Japan. I also run dance studios here in New York, as well as teach here in New York. For what I do, it is very important that what you do exists. Music is very therapeutic, and music causes movement, which is also therapeutic. So if there's no music, there's no movement. So for me, it's very important that the students understand that they have to listen and feel music before they move to music. Teaching online is a niche in itself, and it has its ups and it has its downs. But I think right now, specifically, it's probably the saving grace for a lot of people that they can get into a class and just listen to music and have a good time, because they may or may not be able to deciding on what their living structure is. So it's really great to be able to be in a room with another bunch of individuals who have the same affinity and love for music as myself.
Okay. Oh, Connor, let's delve into your story a little bit.
Cool. So you want me to share my story, I'm assuming? Yep. Cool. So
the abbreviated version.
Yeah, the abbreviated.
That's an hour and a half, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm Connor, and this is my dad, Jeff. I was a former student, piano student of Glory's. I believe I started lessons when I was about probably 7 or 8 years old with Glory. Yep. I went until I was about 15 or 16. And anyways, I've played piano probably since the age of 4 or 5. Always loved it. Anyways, when I was 15, it was actually 3 days after my 15th birthday. I went in for a routine day surgery to repair a deviated septum in my nose, and to also to revise my cleft lip. I was born with a cleft lip, and a deviated septum is very common, not only amongst cleft lip patients, but just amongst everyone. And so I went in for the surgery, and surgery was supposed to be 3 hours long. And 4 hours later, my parents were still sitting in the waiting room thinking, okay, something's up, what's going on? And the surgeon came out and he said, Connor has some bleeding from behind his left eye and out through his nose. I'm not sure what happened, so I'm going to take him in for a CAT scan. And like half an hour later, he came back and he said that Connor suffered a serious traumatic brain hemorrhage. We're not sure if he's going to make it through the night. So I ended up, instead of going home that night like I was supposed to, I spent a month in the hospital. I was in a coma for a week, and the entire right side of my body was paralyzed for 24 hours. So I guess the complicated thing about having a brain injury is, when you have it, everyone knows that you had it except for you, because I was in a coma for a while. Then basically the first 2.5 weeks, I don't even remember. But all I remember was waking up like 2.5 weeks later, and my right hand was just in a fist like this, and my brain was telling my right hand to open up, but it just stayed closed. And I was so out of it and on so many painkillers and yada 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 that I knew that my right hand wouldn't open up, but I didn't understand why it wouldn't open up. And it took until a month later when I was home, and I kind of connected the puzzle pieces. And I was sitting at the dinner table with my parents, and I said, wait, I thought I went in for a routine day surgery. Why doesn't my right side work properly anymore? And so I was shocked. And then, so that's kind of like the brunt of my story. I don't know if my dad wants to add anything else.
Well, when he did sit down at the piano when he finally got home from the hospital, he couldn't even lean into his arm to make a sound. So that was his starting point from being, fairly prodigious piano player at that point. He played Oscar Peterson concert, and I think he was certainly on a trajectory. And to make a long story short, in the last 10 years, Connor's now a graduate of the University of Manitoba Jazz Program. He's an EA, and he's been back playing shows and concerts, jazz festivals, and using his right hand. And he had totally rebuilt his right hand, and that came through the power of music. And music totally drove that, and perseverance totally drove his recovery. So it's been an interesting story to watch and to be a part of, and just to really see the power of music kind of embodied in Connor and where he's hopefully taking it.
And I just want to add one more thing. Like now when I do say solo piano gigs, I remember I was playing, I think at the airport actually last year, playing solo piano at the airport, and a guy was watching me, and after my set, he came up to me and he says, man, like you have such a strong left hand. And it's funny because a lot of people point that out. Like at first, right after my injury, like people would say, oh, why aren't you playing with your right hand? Because literally for almost a year, I could hardly play with my right hand. It was just my left hand. And so, but now it's gone from why aren't you using your right hand to, whoa, you have a strong left hand, not realizing that my right hand is actually weak, And so I remember my dad got me this, I think a Dave Matthews just music book. And my dad like can't really play music, but he can tell what's right hand and what's left hand. And he was looking at the notes and then looking at my hands and looking at the notes, looking at my hands. He says, you're not playing what's on the page, are you? And I said, well, not really. He says, well, how are you? But like, it sounds like the band. I don't understand. I said, I don't know. I'm just doing what I can, So yeah.
It finds a way. Somehow music finds a way to drive the bus.
Yeah.
So.
I have a little tear in my eye, just reliving all those moments, as a teacher. And I'm sure all of you can appreciate, the feeling of helplessness. Connor was actually supposed to be coming for a piano lesson later that day. I remember him saying to me, well, I may have a Band-Aid or something on. And then of course I received the email from Jeff saying, regret to inform you. And I was just like, what? So there was a lot. And I hope you get to watch his story. I don't want to tell the whole thing, but certainly Jeff walks us through that in the Healing Power of Music Summit, and Connor wraps it up with some of his performances. So you'll actually get to see him play. He came into my studio and we did an interview, and I'm so honored and grateful. And thank you for sharing your story, Connor. Connor also
Absolutely.
at the Love Your Brain, and he has been presenting his story at universities and colleges, and I think high schools as well, just to create awareness that music can heal you. And I'm also want to recognize Julianne, who just popped in a little bit late, and she's like, "What's happening?" So, Julianne, can you just introduce yourself a little bit about what you do and
Sure.
your thoughts on the summit?
Well, my name is Julianne Workington, and I'm a piano teacher and a composer. And I really have a passion also for getting my students to compose. And I have a home studio and work at a school as well. And yeah, I just love the language of music.
Thank you, Julianne. I think I would like to do just one more quick roundtable, and that is about how can we create more awareness? Because sometimes we're in the lane of we teach piano or we teach guitar or we teach dance, and it's always about the technical stuff, and it's more so about the music and the lesson. But I think the reason that I wanted to create this was this summer, and again, I'm so grateful to all of the speakers who have shared their story and their wisdom, is that how can we create more awareness? And I think Sheila alluded to it a little bit with just listening. I was reading a book today. It's actually, the book is called Change Your Questions, Change Your Life. And I thought how timely that I opened this book, and right there it said, change your questions, change your life. And it talks about creating awareness, because sometimes if we don't ask the right questions, change your questions, we don't even know the pain that our students are in. We just say, how was your day? But how can we go deeper than just how was your day? Because ultimately they may say fine or okay or not so good. But I think I've seen and experienced it firsthand, where I've had students that were actually hurting themselves, or, which was really causing me a lot of trauma. And as educators, we also become counselors, we become coaches, even my journey with Connor, think about that. I had him since he was just like 6 years old. He was like way shorter than me. And now he's like, 10 feet tall, way taller than me. And his family is so dear to my heart. We hang out every Christmas. Connor comes and jams at the St. Germain family jam every Christmas Eve. Of course, not this year because we couldn't do it. But, we develop those lifelong relationships. So the question ultimately is what can we as educators do to create more awareness that music can heal you? And I'll start with Sibo. Can you share your thoughts with us?
For me, it's a little bit different than for all of you, actually, because you all have one-on-one for most of the time, or you can have one-on-one. I normally have 30 on one.
Wow.
Or, that's a normal class for me. Is, I have a great amount of people in a room all together, and there's so many different things going on there. So for me, it's not even about asking the right questions. It's about creating a space that feels safe.
Yes.
Creating a space where people can be themselves and do what they want to do. And of course, leave that door open for being able to speak to me directly if they feel the need to, or speak to another classmate. So I normally start off with greeting everyone and just making sure everyone is okay. Because again, it's 30 people in the room. And then I oftentimes at the end of class will also speak to them again about some of the things that we went through in class and just some of the things that are going on in the world on whole. And just create that space where people feel comfortable to share. Because a lot of the things that are going on in people's lives, it's not easy to really talk about, especially to talk about in a group setting of 30 people that you may or may not even know, on top of some of them don't even speak the language. So for me, it's just more about creating a space of equality and a space of comfortability and a space of familiarity. where you can come to every week and just let your mind roam free. Because dance does that. A lot of the times we are talking a lot during the day, especially on this venue. So, you know, when you can just move and it speaks volumes to what you're going through, that's it. Sometimes that's all people need sometimes. And that's all a testament to music and the power of, and the healing power of music.
Yeah. And I love what you said too, because when we think of, as soon as you get into dance, what changes is your physiology, right?
Yep.
So you can't dance like this. Well, maybe you could, but not it. I mean, it does change physiology, which changes your mindset and your grounding. And I think it's important to engage in that.
Specifically for the type of dance that I do, which is street and club styles. So it's a social aspect. It's 1000% social dance made by the Black and Brown community. Like, that's what we do. We come together and dance in a space together. So it's not necessarily as defined as you have to do this step. It's more so we all move together, but not the same.
Right.
And so that's what I try to do with my students anyways, just to get them to a place where, yeah, you're doing the step different than I'm doing the step or from everyone else in the class, but you're doing it your way. As long as we're all moving together, we're good.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Yin Yin, can you share your thoughts on awareness?
Yes, for the last 30 years, I've been teaching privately and also at the Cal State Los Angeles. But the most important thing, as I say before, peace through music. A lot of time I have students, they went through the depression and later they came out from it because I have them involved with a community service that they play for the nursing home 3 times a year. And we have a peace through music for the Holocaust and genocide. And so the students actually grow up aware that's the mission that have it, is use the music as a powerful language that they can express themselves. Music meant to be shared. So through the music, they actually forgot about themselves. Some of them went into the psychiatrist, and one of them going this year to Biola University for the music therapy because she gone through that. So it's a wonderful to passing on my passion, because I believe in, as I say, you cannot be a good musician if you're not a good person. So building the students' character from when they're a child, just like Connor, it's really important as an educator. So the day they walk into the studio, I feel like it's already part of my life.
Yes. I think that's our secret as teachers. Once we get the students coming into our studio, we already know we're keeping you forever. We're not going to let you go. Joanne, I think I missed you on the round table first round. I'm apologizing. So did I get you to introduce yourself?
I certainly would. My name's Joanne Barker. As she said, I live in Ontario, Canada, about 2 hours from Toronto, 2 hours from Detroit, and about a 2-day drive from Glory. My takeaway from the whole Power Music, the summit, was that we all go through struggles, and the one thing that we have in common that got us through those struggles was music. For me, music saved my brain. I went through chemo. I don't have chemo brain. And I've tested that a few times and playing pieces that I played before chemo and hadn't touched for 25 years, and they're right there. And I've had this conversation with a couple of health professionals in the past week saying, in the summit we talked about this, and the conversations have been just so uplifting, and they go, yeah, this is why we take music. This is why music is so important. We need to build our brain. So for Connor's example, right, his brain was so refined and so in the developing process of growing that he had this wonderful foundation. If he'd gone through that surgery and hadn't had the music background, right? And I know my brain's been saved by chemo, or not by chemo, by music because of chemo. So that's my story.
And Joanne is cancer free, and so we
Joanne is cancer free. Yes.
Yeah.
A bit of residual damage, right? The chemo left its scars. I have nerve damage, and I can't play as much, and you'll hear all about that in the story. But my brain's fine.
Well, that's maybe questionable.
Well, at least the important parts of my brain are fine.
Yes, they are. Thank you, Joanne. Rami, can you share your thoughts on how we can create more awareness for healing?
Lori, you know me already. We've spoken a few times. I'm often lost for words, and I also don't plan. I don't do things for to make awareness. So I don't think of any of these things. But when I get the feedback from my students, that's when I start realizing that something is done. Like, I don't come into the lesson thinking, okay, I'm going to inspire you now. No, I just do my job. I just teach. That's all I know. And then they tell me how inspiring I am. So good. I'm glad. I'm happy to hear that. And so this is basically, I just do what I have to do. And this is when I perform, this is when I compose, this is when I write, and this is when I teach. But if you have for me another 20 seconds, I just want to mention, and that holds for the previous question, quite 30, 40 years ago, we lost our son at 15 years of age. And being Jewish, we sit Shiva for a whole week, and people come in to be with you, not make you feel that you're not alone. Anyway, at the end of the week, I gave a concert. 3 days later, I took the rest of my family, so they shouldn't be alone, because I had a concert scheduled in America. And we went, all of us, and we concert to America, gave concerts all over the place. And that's it. I did what I have to do.
Yeah.
I could start saying all kind of things. Well, the music helped me pull through. The music fed me all the power and all the healing, but I don't know how to use such words and such terms, so I just know how to do what I have to do. Thank you.
And Rami is a concert pianist and has certainly performed all over the world. He's an author as well. And I think sometimes what's interesting that you said, Rami, is that we do what we do, and sometimes it's who we are inside, and it's how we share. And so sometimes we think about things, and sometimes it's just, it comes from within us. And your students are right, you do inspire them. And maybe you're not aware, but now you are, because they're telling you. And I'm sorry for your loss too, Rami. That's a very
thank you.
A very difficult time for you, I'm sure. Sarah, can you share with us?
Yeah, one of the ways that I bring awareness is I have a 20-year-old son who's in Norway, and we haven't seen him in a year, but we always have had kids coming in and out of the house. So when he was here, his friends, I'm involved in youth sports, so there's kids coming in and out. And the way that I bring awareness is I bring people to concerts. So when my son was here, we would go to lots of concerts, and we would see lots of different kinds of music. And I would bring people to different things. And then, the book that you had mentioned about asking the right questions. Well, I think that that's really important, to ask questions and then give your students the opportunity to answer. Because I know that I tend to, especially on Skype, you wait 3 seconds for the answer, they don't respond, and then you start talking, and then that's when they started their answer because of the latency. And so asking questions and then paying attention to the answer, and then bringing people to concerts and giving people a lot more exposure. We always had music coming in and out of the house, and I think, well, on the healing awareness, I think in the last 3 months, I lost both of my parents. And my mom was at a nursing home recently. And I noticed that, when we played music and when we sang, when we did things that, that you could see that it had sparked this spark in her. And I think that maybe not awareness for other people, but it made me more aware how important and how powerful music and movement and doing all of these things is, not just for how it makes me feel, but how it makes the other people around me feel.
Absolutely. Thank you, Sarah. Jeff, I'd like you to share the story that that you told me about when Connor was singing before he could speak when he was in the hospital.
Well, we were in, Connor was still basically in, at that point, I believe it was a medically induced coma just to settle his brain. And my two eldest sons, they came in for a visit and to give my wife and I a break. So we went to the Ronald McDonald room and we were having something to eat. And one of my sons came running down and he said, "Mom, Dad, you've got to come and see this. Connor, we were playing some music in the room, as we always did. And he said, he's singing. You got to come and see this." So we ran off. And as soon as we got back to the room, well, the show was over. Unfortunately, it was kind of like the movie Awakenings when the L-Dopa wears off. It was the same sort of thing. He was back to being asleep. And but he sang Blackbird by the Beatles. And it was playing on in the background. And he started Blackbird singing in the dead of night. And everybody, what? Where did that come from? But he was listening to music and after intensive care. We didn't have any intensive care, but once he was out of intensive care in the ward, we had music running pretty much 24/7. And it was, it's amazing what music does, even subconsciously. It was obviously leading things. And interesting that he sang before he spoke. And speaking to Joanne and Remy and Sarah and your losses. And when Connor does his presentation in schools, he says, "This is my story. Everybody has a story, but this is music got me through my tough time. And music can help you get through your tough times, whether it's, your parents have divorced or you're having health issues, or there's a million things. Everybody goes through something and music can help get you through it." And that's kind of the message that goes with his presentation.
And also, I just wanted to add to what Joanne said as well. I honestly think if I didn't have music, I'd be about 10% of where I am right now. It's been my number one therapy, as Sibo said as well. When I came home and I couldn't play piano, then the occupational therapist gave me finger exercise just to do on the table. And after about 2 minutes, I got so bored of it. Because I was just hitting my fingers on the table. It was so boring. And I looked at the piano. And I thought, well, if I do it on the piano, it will make it musical. It'll make it more fun, and I'll do it probably for way longer than I would have. And so even to this day, after this Zoom, I'm gonna do right hand piano just because, I know that my right hand will never be as quick as my left hand, but there's no hurt in trying, you know.
So what he actually does is he plays along with a rhythm track. So it's a jazz rhythm track and the improvisation part. And while he's playing the rhythm track with his right hand, improvising, he's playing games on his iPad at the same time with his left hand. So it occupies his left hand, which Glory's seen. It's kind of like a stupid human trick. And but you know what? He's been doing it for 10 years, but he still sees subtle improvements. Yeah. And it's music that got him here. And he graduated from university, and academically, he went from being an honor roll student in junior high to being in the learning center in high school with tutors. And he had a real struggle academically, but music got him through. Music got him a university degree. Music got him to where he is today. And shortly he's going to be going to a school where he's an educational assistant in the music program at 2 schools. So So he's sharing his love for music there as well.
Yeah. And CD coming out soon as well. So
working on it.
Go Connor. Thank you. Thank you so much. Ruth, what are your thoughts?
I just was leaving you a message because I have to leave. I'm actually, in terms of doing something that's a slight bit different, I'm bringing tapping, it's called emotional freedom technique, and music together, which is another healing modality within the whole genre of healing. And so I was just leaving you a message because I've got to go do that right now.
Yeah.
So Glory can give you a little bit more about what I've been doing with healing and music and tapping.
Yeah. And I think there's so many ways, we talk about the tapping, we talk about dancing, the how music can heal our brain, at least make us smarter. And when you teach, not only does music make you smarter, but it makes you teachers, it makes you better looking. So I'm just saying, like, look at the group here. So thank you. I know she had to run. Now everybody's mixed up my line. I think I'm with Derek. Derek?
Okay, so raising awareness. To me, it's about modeling a certain way. And as everyone's recalibrating right now, I found my whole teaching was recalibrating. And like Siba was saying earlier, creating a safe space. And so I find myself asking a whole set of different questions now. Maybe that comes from my coaching background now, but when a student plays something, my number one question is, okay, how does that make you feel? How are you feeling? I'm always talking about emotions with them and trying to get down a little bit deeper, whether I'm seeing them in person or online, to connect them that way. And that kind of modeling, I think, really helps the students express and access a part that they're probably suppressing right now, especially, or suppressing in general. And I find that's been really, really powerful, that kind of modeling for students and modeling for families. Sometimes you have a parent listening to the lesson or listening in the background, and I can see it's helping their space. I have another student that does a lot of composing and a lot of anxiety. And one day he just asked if he could improvise at the lesson. I thought, yeah, great. I like improvising. Sure. And he went off on this stuff he was just creating in the moment. And now he creates these elaborate compositions. And I kind of walk him through, and I'm not trying to change anything, but I'm just getting him to connect with his emotions. What do you feel here? Well, I don't like this part. Or what is it you don't like about that part? How does it make you feel? Always coming back to that. And I notice after a few minutes, he just lightens up and everything just sort of releases for him. He gets some kind of, anxiety release. And it's just the power of that. It's just really, really amazing to see. One other thing I want to just add to what Joanne said earlier too, I also had the chemo brain about 5 years ago. And I mean, it was, sitting at the piano, it helped rewire everything. And now my brain feels stronger than it ever has. And so I can totally relate to her story and hopefully add some to what she said there about that.
Well, thank you so much, Derek. Thank you. Noreen?
Yes, I've had some really interesting experiences. I'm a very social person and I love meeting people in person and getting together. And so I have these monthly workshops and they've been virtual. I haven't missed any since COVID. I have them all as a group live performance. But I had one last few weeks ago, and one of the mothers emailed me late at night, and she said, I just want to let you know, my father just passed away, and he used to actually come online and join us. A lot of the grandparents schedule their trips out, and they'll come visit at the workshop. So I get to meet a lot of the families, and I'm fortunate in that a lot of my students, they start when they're 3, 4, 5 years, but I end up writing their college recommendations. So, they're with me 14, 15 years, and, it's just, it's such a privilege to share so much of their life. And I also have the other story that I shared with you earlier, Gloria, about my almost 30 years teaching an adult student and our trajectory. But let me just share this other story where the mother said that her father was very, very restless, and he was in his very last stages before passing. And they put on some Gershwin for him, and he immediately, not only did he start calming down, but he hadn't spoken in a few days. His foot started tapping, his foot started moving. And it just shows you that even when you're in the state, the music, he loved music, and he was still able to hear the music and be with the music. And I'm sure that music is going with him, you know, wherever he is. And it's so powerful. And I also used to teach someone's grandmother who had Alzheimer's. And, you know, given the day, she couldn't always remember the name of her kids and her grandkids or, you know, a lot of current things. But she could get up and perform. She could perform pieces that she learned 25, 30 years ago. And it was just amazing. And she would do duets, and I mean, with me, and it was the power of music. And I did set up something about 10 years ago to bring the kids to nursing homes. And ironically, 5 years after that, when my mother was at a senior home, we were bringing music there. And it was just, you will never find a more grateful audience than a senior home. I mean, their eyes light up when they see the kids. The kids know, okay, this is a very forgiving audience. I can just do my best and they're going to enjoy it no matter what happens. So thank you so much for doing this, Glory. Really brings us back to why we make music. And it's not just, it's not just the things on the surface, but all those layers in between. So thank you. I'm so sorry. I'm going to have to leave because I do have 2 teenagers and I have to take off. But I just wanted to thank you. And I see faces here that I know, like Yin Yin, and I want to. And Rami, I think, is on some of my social media, and I would love to meet all of you on social media. So please reach out to me, and I hope to meet you live someday, all of you.
Yes, thank you so much, Noreen. I appreciate you being here. Thank you.
Thank you. It's my honor. Thank you.
Thank you. Miss Dorothy.
Okay. In Singapore, the students are very competitive and parents are very competitive. And when they enrolled in piano lessons, a lot of time they want results. Is my child getting distinction? Are they going for competitions? Can I use it for direct school admission? So there's always this paper chase, and bringing awareness that music is not just about that piece of paper and that certificate, but in Asia it is. Yeah. So I think for me, it's like working with one student at a time, that music helps to bring mold character. It helps to bring make the person a better person, because it works on your spirit, your soul, and makes you a better person inside, rather than just chasing distinction after distinction and competition after competition. So I see it as working with one student at a time, and I do my best with each one of them.
Yes. Thank you, Dorothy. You know, it's been a huge part of conversations lately, that there's the fine line between wanting all of these achievements and doing exams and competitions, as you said, but also about the enjoyment and why, what is the why? Why do you want to play music? You don't want to play music so you can put a piece of paper on the wall. You want to play music because it makes you happy. It brings you joy. It helps you heal others when you go and perform in places. And it helps you celebrate, and it helps you when you're grieving. It's just so many reasons for the why. So thank you for sharing that. And it's still important to set those goals, though, isn't it? I mean, we still have to set goals for ourselves. Otherwise, we would just all be the same. So it's the balance, isn't it? Thank you, Dorothy. Mary Kay?
Yes. I want to thank you too for having this and giving us a chance to tell our stories. And I as far as awareness goes, one of the things that I've really noticed probably in the last 5 to 10 years is that students aren't listening to music with their parents. And so I have started a campaign in my studio to change that and get parents listening with their children, and not just listening to the music, but actually discussing it and asking questions. And I think through that, maybe that they will come to understand that music is a language, but it also does affect us very deeply. And hopefully through their discussions, they'll become closer to each other, and they will recognize the healing that can take place. I will give an example. I was married in my early 20s and had been married about 4 years, and my ex-husband got addicted to drugs. And that was a very difficult time in my life. It was very hard, and I was raising my son, and we were just trying to get through that, and trying to figure out how to, I guess, rebound from that. And music helped me get through that time, most definitely. And eventually, I did go back to school and got my degree and started teaching. But I never really thought about how that might come back around to help someone else. And I had a young teenager come in one day, and I'd been teaching her for about 5 years. And her husband was a drummer, and I mean, her father was a drummer, and he got addicted to crack cocaine. And she came into my studio one day, and I could just tell it was all over her face. She wasn't crying, but I just reached out to her and I said, "Kristen, you don't have to tell me what's wrong if you don't want to, but I know you're upset." And she's told me the story. And I just gave her a big hug, and I said, "I've been through it. If your mom or you need to talk, please reach out to me. I'm here." And that experience just really showed me how the things that we go through can really help our students. Also other people around us, but we don't realize it at the time, sometimes. And it helps draw us out of ourselves and reach out and be able to comfort other people. Mm-hmm. So I do think that there is a lack of awareness of how music does heal. And if this panel can get that out there and, spread the word, that's, we tend to keep those experiences to ourselves. And I think this is a great way to get it out there. So thank you again, Glory.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Mary Kay, for sharing your story. And one powerful thing that really resonated with me was when you said, parents may hear students, their children listening to one kind of music and they just don't want to hear it. And kids do the same thing. Their mom and dad might be listening to, the Beatles or something, and they go, "Ugh, don't listen to that." But what I love about what you said was it opens conversation. And I think that that's a great tool for us to share with our students. And I'm going to take that as a little golden nugget, as a takeaway today, to say to my students, here's an assignment for this week. You need to listen to one of your favorite songs, and your parents need to sit there and listen to it, and then vice versa. So just 2 songs, which is a total of 5 minutes, like 2.5 minutes each song, and then discuss what you liked about the music. And as Derek said, how does that make you feel? How does that resonate with you? That's powerful stuff. My grandson was also a crystal meth addict. And his music is what got him through. His story is a long story. And as a matter of fact, they did a TV show on intervention. So some of you may have seen it because I was in that show and with my grandson and my entire family. And it was a long road. And there were relapses, and it was a challenge because the relationship that he had with his brothers and sisters was one way, because they were more in there. And of course, me being his granny, I only saw the good side, right, of when he would come over and everything would be wonderful. So it was just different dynamics, different relationships. And yet there was sort of that one main thing is just the musical connection. He's, guitar player. And so anyway, you'll actually meet my granddaughter in the summit. She's not here today. She didn't really talk about that story in her because her son is Down syndrome, and she talked about how he sings but cannot speak. He's nonverbal. So there's so many stories, and I think just creating awareness, like you're not alone. You don't have to feel like, oh, I'm in this black hole and I can't get out. If you just reach out and say, music can heal you, your brain, it can heal your heart, it can heal your soul, it can it's the medicine. And I think actually, Dorothy, you need to watch her presentation, because she actually showed how music also is herbs, which is actually medicine. So I don't want to, no spoiler alert there, but make sure to watch that for sure. And Sheila, can you just share your final thoughts?
For me, I think the communication has to be with us as teachers. When I know most of us will meet a family that's coming into our studios, and I like to tell the story that music is my passion. It's not, whoops, sorry, it's not just my profession. It is my passion. And so I'm going to be looking for your child to make their connection through music, and I'm not going to be expecting perfection.
Mm-hmm.
It is so important that we do what we can and we celebrate that. So I have my little Facebook music studio. The videos that are on that, I've had other teachers come and say, oh, you must have been so disappointed that they didn't get that rhythm right. And I'm like, oh, I didn't even hear that. I looked at what the smile was on their face, because they got to play that. And so if we let our parents know, and then eventually the community will know, that there are musicians out there that want to make music a part of your child's heart and not just a piece of paper that's on the wall. I think that that's important. Now, there's definitely a need for teachers out there who have the piece of paper on the wall, and that's what that child's goal. But I think all of us in this group here have such heart-wrenching stories that music has healed us, that we have to remember that that is now our passion. And when we can mix our passion and our profession and just make it right out there, hey, I'm not creating little Mozarts, I'm creating kids that will go, I'm having a crappy day, I need to play the piano.
Yes.
That's the connection.
Yeah.
And especially during this time of COVID, one thing is like creating challenges with your students. How many of your relatives can you play this song on Skype to? How many, so that they're getting the communication with their kids, with the extended family, because we can't have those concerts anymore. So I think the big thing is communicating being comfortable, being in your own skin. I know for us, I tell my teenage parents that what happens in the piano room stays in the piano room. If your child has to tell me something, then this is a safe room. When people say, well, tell the teacher, they can tell me, because I've created that set of boundaries right from the very beginning. I will never move your finger without asking your permission. I will always be respectful of how kids then can share their connection with music and the emotions. And it's really cool. It really is.
Thank you, Sheila. You know what you just said is it is a safe place. And, even Sibo mentioned, that you can take your students and create that safe space for them just to express themselves. Absolutely. Julianne, and then we'll wrap up with Joanne.
Well, I think the best way to bring awareness that I've seen is just by sharing your music. And that's one thing that really helped me when I was a teenager that I'll never forget. I had a lot of ups and downs, as most teenagers do, and I wasn't really in a family where I could easily share my feeling. But I found when I shared my music with others, whether I composed for others or even go to, my grandma's care home or play in church or whatever, it was just an expression of my feelings. And I've tried to really encourage my students to do that, even with musical mind streaming, we call it, where you just sit down at the piano, give yourself 5 minutes just to play whatever comes. And have it describe exactly what you're feeling at the time. And I had one student in particular who was, she was 13. This is going back about 10 years. And she was very sullen. You could tell that it was a hard time for her. And I tried to bring, make technique a part of the composition, ladder, so to speak. And so she just took her 4 basic chords, the 1, 4, and 5, and she wrote a song. But what was just stunning is that she wrote words to it, which actually were very heart-wrenching. It was just about how none of the girls in her school liked her, et cetera, et cetera. And she just kept writing these songs, and she was even fine with performing them in our concerts. And I'm not a voice teacher, but you know, if the song comes with words, you got to sing it. And so just yeah, just sharing and expressing, and just now online, of course, even through Facebook, the moms love to share their kids' compositions. Yeah. And that's another way, you know, to like I've had some kids say, hey, my mom shared my composition, which of course I encourage, and I had, you know, this many likes, and it just, you know, makes their day.
Yeah. And I think you're right, you know, that whole self-expression, it is a way not only to listen to the music to heal your mind and body and soul, but also to express yourself. You know, absolutely. Thank you, Julianne. Yeah. And final thoughts from Joanne, and then we'll wrap it up.
Two short things, Sheila. I was given this really cool thing by a family a few years ago, and it's a wooden sign on my wall, and it says, music, it's not what I do, it's who I am. Right? Yeah. And what I think my takeaway, and what I would say to teachers who are out there listening to this, I know I'm so grateful to Glory for this past year because of the Elite Educator program and all the professional development I've had, and the thought-provoking sessions we've had to like look at myself as a teacher in a different way. So we as educators, what we could do for awareness is reach out to other teachers and say, you know what, we're not just piano teachers. We're so much more than that. And the power of music is so much bigger than learning to play a sonata. Mind you, they're pretty awesome to play, but there's so much more to music than that. So if each of us reaches out and you know, talks to two people and says, you know what, we're more. Yeah. We can do more for our students. We're already doing that. And just to kind of spread that awareness to other people that music is an important. We're the ones who are still working in this pandemic. Why aren't they doing news stories on us? Come on.
Yes.
Right. So music is our life, right? So that saying is, music's not what I do, it's who I am. That's
way to wrap things up, Joanne. I just want to thank everyone so much for being here and being so open and sharing your stories. You've warmed my heart today, and I'm truly grateful. The Global Healing Power of Music Summit is I put the link in here, but please share the link with all your you know, your list. I just want everyone to feel welcome. The list will be here, and we'll do a follow-up with you. We will be meeting on Saturday to do our meet and greet event on Facebook. So I hope that I can see all of you there, and just keep making music. And thank you again for being here. I really appreciate it. Have a great day, everybody.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good one.
Thank you.
Thank you.